Welcome back to Radio Days here in Athens. We're just hanging around the fire here with Jackie and Gemma.
So toasty and warm.
Don't get burnt. We haven't got the insurance for that. Her Best Life. Congratulations on the incredible podcast.
Thanks.
We were just talking about it in the summit. How did it go, Jackie?
Yeah, it was great. We had so much fun on stage, didn't we? It was a real honour to be asked here to talk about our podcast, which we do in Australia, in our lounge room. It feels like it's just us, and so sometimes you forget there is an audience internationally.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Yeah, and that's what's so great about podcasting, right? It's like anyone can access it anywhere.
And Gemma, is this your first time at the Radio Days conference?
It is actually, even though my whole career has been in radio. I don't know how I've managed to dodge it. And then what I've done is I've waited for it to come for this one special occasion. Yeah. And then we spent some of the time on stage talking about sex, talking about addiction, talking about crystals and healing, so I waited to really make it impactful.
We're going to wrap this up now and say thanks to Jackie and Gemma for coming.
I knew she'd blow it.
I mean, I don't know what you guys get up to in Australia. God knows what happens. Where even is that place? But on a serious note, I know that someone was in watching it. We had spies, and they said there was a lot of giggles and lighter moments, but also serious too.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, you were talking about kind of your struggles with addiction in the past.
Yes.
And how teamwork and friendship, you were helping her through that.
Yeah, Gemma was the one that really kind of, encouraged me to go to rehab, and and it was just our secret, no one knew, and she helped me through that for a number of years before I decided to come out and share it with my audience on radio, and so we've been through a lot together. We've known each other for decades, but things like divorce, addiction, all of these things we've been on the ride together and always been there for each other. And I think through the podcast, people can really hear that deep bond that we have formed over the years.
You've both been in broadcasting for a long time. You said radio, traditional radio, now podcasting. And, a lot of what happens on air is kind of glitzy, glamorous, celebrity stuff. It might not have the depth or the level of what you're doing now. Not always, of course. But what's the difference in the reaction you find from listeners? Obviously, you have fans who would listen to your other stuff on TV and radio, but the reaction to this very real-life themes you just mentioned.
Yeah. It is. People are seeing a different side to me because they're used to seeing just, I guess, one side. I guess, on radio I do share a lot, but I think the common feedback that we seem to be getting is, I didn't realize that, Jackie was like that. Like there's I guess, a lot of sharing about sort of these vulnerable moments with us where we really aren't afraid to talk about our flaws, and our weaknesses, and I think that's just nice for people to listen to and see that different side.
And I think that's what happens is because we are so vulnerable and raw and honest, we just bear everything, we'll cry on there, we'll talk about our insecurities, our imposter syndrome, all of that. And I think because it has that depth, and then at times it has complete hilarity where we're laughing so hard we can't even speak, I think it really strikes a chord, particularly with women, and women will come up to us on the street and say, like, you're literally listening to your podcast is saving me right now. Like, I'm going through a bad breakup, or I'm going through cancer treatment, or have been single for years and I'm feeling down. So I think it's because it's got that depth that really seems to resonate quite a lot.
What you're doing now on the podcast, could you traditionally do that on radio? Or would it be impossible with the time constraints and the breaks you've got to hit?
I do. I think it is not quite right for breakfast radio. I think people want a little bit more of shorter, punchier, it's a car ride, it's got to be a little bit more, showbiz, glossy and have a bit more pizzazz, whereas a podcast, I think, can be a lot more raw and vulnerable, and you can really sit with something for a lot longer than you would on radio, but I'm not sure they can cross over very easily.
Hard on break, just out of rehab. Lady Gaga's got a new single.
It's hard.
It's more difficult. Do you like podcasting more than radio?
No, I don't like one more than the other, to be honest.
Come
I think
on,
they both
pick one,
give me.
Jackie.
I think they give me a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think if I just had podcasting, I'd miss aspects of radio. I really would, and vice versa.
And what about you?
Well, now that I've left radio after 20 years, I'm going to say podcasting.
Radio's, you're like, what is radio? What's FM? What is that?
No, honestly, I have such a deep love for radio, I really do. But it was 20 years of my life, and this is like a whole new chapter of my life. So I'm embracing a new love. It's like my new boyfriend, which I don't have.
Okay, well, hey, number is plus whatever it is for Australia. You can look it up, and then the number is. But can I ask you, do you find that the listenership, we're talking a lot about the crossover. So obviously on the air, you can get your loyal fans of The Breakfast Show to cross over and listen to the podcast. But people who listen to the podcast, are they following you over to radio? Do you find?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's pathetic, I know. There's something wrong with me.
I can
And it's always at the most inappropriate moments, like, and then my mother died of that terrible disease. And how did you feel? Good question. Thank you. You can't resist. We're so insecure. Put that in your podcast. Come back. You'll get cold. Come back to the fire.
Okay. I know that we have discussed that we actually do get loads of messages on social saying like, oh, I don't listen to the radio
That's
show.
me messaging you again and again.
I know, and I'm really trying to cement that. But I mean, there'd obviously be such a crossover because
there would be. There'd be a crossover, but actually we do have people listening to the podcast that don't listen to the show,
Finally, on a serious note, how's life today? How many years have you been sober? How are you feeling?
I am about 2 years, over 2 years. We're coming up to 2.5 probably. So 2.5 years, and life is so good. I never dreamed it could be this good, honestly. I thought life would be really boring sober. But it turns out it's not. It's way better. It really is. I feel like I'm really, really living life, you know. I love it. I love every day, and I love what we do, and we're always like to travel here to Athens,
awesome.
you know, and be talking to you.
Wow.
That's the highlight.
It's a low point. That's a bit of a disaster. That would put you back on the booze. What do you think when you see how your best friend has developed and
I know, I love it. I was just talking about this on stage, and I was saying that the greatest joy for me as a best friend is to watch the courage that she had to have and the bravery to go to rehab and to go through the program. But then that's a choice that she has to make now every day, you know, and to see from what she was like to what she's like now, where she's just vibrant and abundant and joyous, it's just like that's all you want for the closest people in your life, you know?
That is awesome. Gemma, Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun.
That was fun.